most people first think of Scandinavia, they will first picture the fjords of Norway, the lush forests of Sweden, or the beautiful cities of Denmark. When people first get interested in the idea of the spiritualities that come from these places, they will be flooded with the images of the wise Odin or the hammer-wielding Thor. And before too long, the image of Vikings sailing across the seas for adventure and plunder are not far behind. What I want to change with this video is the first thing you should think about when you hear about these countries is a feeling. Each of these countries have a different name for this feeling. It describes coziness, warmth, candlelight, good food, blankets, and starry nights. In Norway, they call it koselig. And the Swedes have the concept of fika. But the word that has taken the world by storm this last decade comes from Denmark. And that word is Hygge.
In this video, I have an argument to make, and that is that concepts such as Hygge or its counterparts are something that people that believe or follow in the northern spiritualities need to pay more attention to. I also believe that the cultural traditions that created Hygge are actually things that come from a very pagan past. And don't worry, I do have evidence to back this up, most notably the stories within the Poetic Edda. Before we dive too deeply into that, we do need to cover what the hell is Hygge. I mean, most people even struggle to pronounce it, but to quote the great Winnie the Pooh, it's not something you spell, it's something that you feel. Which is really good because it's spelled very strangely, and most, again, Hygge? I believe, everything I can tell, it's Hygge. But pronouncing it isn't what's important. There are these things called the Huga Principles that are used to create a Hygge-like environment. And Hygge-like is coziness, is warmth. Again, it's a feeling that is created, and these principles are the tools that are used to create that feeling.
The first being lighting. Look up anything Hygge on the internet and it will most likely involve candles. In fact, 74% of Danes admit to lighting candles at least once per week to achieve this feeling of comfort. The next principle is presence, which is one I'm most fond of and I've talked about on this channel all the time. And this involves shutting off the screens, turning your phone on silent, and focusing on the moment that you're in. Pleasure is sure to be everyone's favorite because this involves enjoying the creature comforts in life. Cookies, coffee, cake, and chocolate are all the main course of a Hygge evening. Equality is one that is less visible and more performed. When you have a Hygge moment, it should be shared by a group both in enjoyment but also in preparation. Think of Thanksgiving where everyone pitches in to cook or clean and then take a nap afterwards. Gratitude is the acceptance that right now might be as good as life gets. In a life where we always are pushed to climb or move forward, Hygge is here to remind you to slow down and be thankful for what's happening right now. Harmony builds on this. In a Hygge environment, life is not a competition to see who's better than anyone else. Everyone in a Hygge environment is equally loved and appreciated. Comfort should be self-explanatory, but putting an emphasis on cozy environments with plenty of cushions and blankets to go around is a great way to make yourself and your guest feel at home. Truce is an interesting principle, but one that I think is so important in our modern times. Hygge environments are demilitarized, unpolitical, and drama-free zones, and I love that. This next principle is togetherness. Hygge can be achieved alone, but it is best experienced with a small group of close friends or family. When polled on how many people are preferred to create a Hygge evening, only 3% of Danes said that they only needed themselves. Like many of you, I find myself in that 3% category more often than not, and I can tell you that Hygge evenings for one are just as powerful as a Hygge evening with friends. Lastly, Hygge environments should create a shelter where those participating can feel safe and forget the worries of the outside world.
If that hasn't already gotten the wheels turning in your mind of why Hygge may be connected to pagan traditions of the past, have no fear because I do have evidence to back this up. Most notably, the Havamal within the Poetic Edda. It's so important within the Havamal that it's actually in the very beginning.
Hail to a good host. A guest has come inside. Where should he sit? He needs a fire, the one who has just come in. His knees are shivering. Food and dry clothes will do him well. He needs water, the one who has just arrived, dry clothes, and a warm welcome from a friendly host. And, if he can get it, a chance to listen and be listened to. I counted over 10 different distinct stanzas that talked about the importance of hospitality and friendship within the Havamal. Some others include, it is better to have a home, even if it's little. Everyone should call somewhere home. If you have a good friend and really trust him and want good to come from this friendship, then you should speak your mind with him, exchange gifts, and visit him often.
The Havamal isn't the only story in the Poetic Edda that suggests that hospitality was something that was very important in the eyes of the gods and the people that followed them in the past. The next story I want to talk about is Grimnesmal, which is the story of Odin and Frigg having a debate on whether this King Geralth was actually a good leader or not, as rumors were beginning to surface that he was really bad to his guest, he wasn't a good host, and a poor leader. And so Odin bet that he was actually a good host, and Frigg, of course, bet against him. And so to prove his point right, he went into disguise and went to Geralth's hall. What he found very quickly was that Geralth was a horrible host and had no hospitality towards his guests, and began to question Odin on his identity, why he was there, and had him imprisoned without any food or water for 8 nights. It wasn't until King Geralth's son, Agnar, came with a horn of mead to Odin that Odin revealed his identity and began to tell the story of Grimnesmal. But at the very end, Geralth, of course, comes in, and Odin reveals who he is to Geralth, and basically says Geralth was a poor host, a poor leader, and all these things, and essentially kills Geralth. And so the backstory of Grimnesmal, which is, a really beautiful story, which I've done a reading of on this channel before, is hospitality. King Geralth was judged by his hospitality, and of course his leadership, but hospitality was one of the main reasons that he was considered a bad leader. There are also several stories about the gods that take place within feast or halls, or take place around feast. Some of those stories, of course, include Lokasenna, which is one of the more popular stories within the Poetic Edda, which I have mentioned several times because it mentions a lot of the deities. And the reason that it mentions a lot of the deities is because they're all at Aegir's hall for a feast. And so Loki has to come in, and there's rules for this feast, and then he begins to insult everybody, and then gets kicked out of the feast by Thor, of course. And so the thing I really like about this is it is a really important poem because of the information it shares about lesser known deities, and it takes place in a feasting hall. Again, really cool stuff. The next story to look at is Heimeskiva, which is the story of Thor and Tyr heading off to steal Heimir's, Tyr's father's, cauldron, which was the best of cauldrons, to brew the best of beers for a feast at Aegir's hall. And lastly, I really want to bring up the fact that the most romanticized and highly valued afterlife within Norse mythos was Valhalla, which is the afterlife where if you die an honorable death, you get to go into this massive hall that is ruled by Odin. You get to drink the greatest of meads, you get serviced by the Valkyries, you get great food that's cooked every single day, and then you get to go battle out in the fields and prepare for Ragnarok. But the main focus of this afterlife, the main reward, was hospitality.
The cornerstone of most pagan practices involves an exchange with the gods, whether that is alcohol, food, or just time. This is no different in most practices involving the Nordic deities. Now, these gods were big on hospitality, and we can see this in the welcoming that Balder receives when he goes to Helheim upon his death. Within Baldur's drama, we see that the benches were lined with chainmail and a feast was being prepared. So if we are looking to welcome the gods to join us in our homes or within a group setting, I believe bringing in some Hygge into this encounter will be both a great way to get into the right headspace, but also a way to make whatever deity you're calling to feel more welcome. Here is my altar space during the day, and here it is at night. Now let's turn on the light. Still not very Huga, so let's turn the light back off, light some candles, and apply the Huga Principles to this moment with the gods. Not only does this space now look more inviting to myself, but it also feels like a place that I can actually speak to the gods of the northern world. As mentioned in previous videos, this style of video is an evolution of the content here at the Wisdom of Odin. Dozens of hours of work were put into making this video in the best way possible, and I really hope you're seeing that in it so far. If you're enjoying this video, please think about liking and sharing it so that you too can have Huga evenings with your friends and family. And if you're loving this video and want to support what I'm doing here at the Wisdom of Odin, please consider donating to Patreon. It is the only way I'm able to continue to do this, but also I make sure there's plenty of benefits for you as well, including the Wisdom of Odin Discord, Patreon live streams, early access videos, and exclusive interviews when they come up. Thank you for choosing to support this channel if you do, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this video.
Now, people have begun to notice that Huga and hospitality are important to me at gatherings as well within our community. Even before I knew what Huga was, I was always very particular about lighting candles at certain meals. I was always big on having meals together, having warm and delicious food. Yes, we've had healthy options, of course, in the past, but it always seems to be something more on the feast side. Hospitality, of course, goes beyond lighting and food. It's something that is done as well, and that's something we see in the Huga Principles. There are a lot of things in there that aren't necessarily physical things that you can touch. There's something that you have within yourself and something that you bring into a conversation. And I would say for the most part, every single gathering we've had has been very Huga in the sense that we don't talk about politics, we don't talk about drama. We're really there to talk about the gods. We're there to talk about our experiences with the gods, and just have a really good time and genuinely care for one another. Again, something I did even before I knew what Huga was make sure that everyone was greeted at a gathering with a warm hug and an embrace and just like a welcome. And and I think this stops a lot of things. I think it stops cliques from forming within the community. I think it's a really great way for first timers to come in where you have all these people greeting them. I mean, you look back at every gathering video I've ever done. I was the person at the first gathering doing the greeting. If you're going to be in the video, be in the video. There we go. You're a pirate. Ah! And then you look at the second gathering videos when I really started recording, these greetings, because it's so subtle. And yeah, it's not really pagan, but it is pagan at the same time. I'm really struggling to keep Miri here in this adorable baby pose. Okay, be free. So yeah, greeting everyone upon arrival at a gathering has always been something that I'm really big on, just deep down in my soul. And then, of course, coming into Huga, getting into Huga, I learned that this is something that I would say is part of those Huga principles to create an environment that is warm, welcoming, and cozy.
Now, these principles can also apply to things outside of a spiritual experience, such as just a cozy night by yourself reading a book, or perhaps even an evening just watching movies with a fire in the background. The possibilities are really only limited by your creativity on what you can do to create a Huga evening for one. With group environments, the stakes may seem higher to produce such an evening, but the rewards of enjoying a cozy evening with friends can really be life-changing. Things such as just a board game night, or maybe just a deep conversation with a well-made drink. Even a group movie night can be seen as a Huga experience as long as the environment and feeling are considered. Humans are very ritualistic creatures, and as we get older, we tend to become creatures of habit, following similar days to maintain some sense of control over the ever-changing world around us. This was true 1,000 years ago, and it is even more true now that the world seems to be changing by the second and no longer just by the year. I believe this is also why so many people are looking to the old ways of those who came before now more than ever, because we need it. The principles of Huga are all principles many of us following non-traditional religious paths seek in our everyday and even from our spiritual beliefs. The people in Scandinavian countries are often rated and observed as some of the happiest people in the world, and many researchers have done studies on why this is. And many of those studies have turned up that practices like Huga are one of the leading causes of happier living. So to the people who come across this video, I really want to encourage you to slow down and live a little bit more northern. Light a candle, bake a cake, or just simply enjoy some time away from the busy lives we are all being forced to live. And to my listeners who have taken this love for Scandinavian culture a step further and started actually following these deities, following the gods of old, I really hope this video has been able to make the argument that Huga isn't just a modern trend. It's something that is steeped in the history and culture of the Scandinavian people all the way back through time. And I believe there is enough evidence to suggest that concepts such as Huga lived on in the past. Yes, Vikings are cool. The idea of sailing across the seas, seeking adventure, not knowing where your next meal is going to come from, feeling the cold sea spray as it freezes you to death. Yes, there is this over-romanticized idea of what it was to be a Viking, but at the end of the day, people back then were most likely at home and enjoying the people they had around them. Remember, it's better to have a home, even if it's small. Everyone should call somewhere home. And I believe that home should be full of warmth, coziness, good drink, great friends, and of course, Huga.